Hello. Okay, so I started out as a Counter-Strike player myself. Was in that scene for a long time, kind of used the prizes to give me a bit of extra pocket money whilst I was at university. And essentially, as I ran out of time to play games, people liked the brand and wanted to represent the same brand as myself, which I created after I stopped playing. And that was in 2009, so it's been a long time. Yeah, so we've been going for a while, but we got into fighting games probably at around about 2012 when we started getting involved in Street Fighter. We had some good success there, I think. People will know some names like Infectious, Brian, Cobblecog, and we did really well and have great success in the Capcom Pro Tour, which is the equivalent of the Tekken World Tour. And yeah, we once we'd sort of finished in that game due to circumstances, we moved into Tekken, which we feel like we're making good progress in. We've got some excellent players, really, a lot of talent. So and now, yeah, we're here now in London, hoping to do well today as well. Well, I'm a big advocate for that in general. So outside of Rize, that's something that I'd like to see happen. I think the FGC, fighting game community, has been very traditional for a long time. I think esports can sometimes be the elephant in the room. And ultimately, the idea of sponsorships has changed. I think eventually, what might be beneficial is sponsorships no longer exist in the way that we think of them. And really, everyone can be part of a team, which is currently called a sponsor. In the generic sort of esports world, you're just part of a club or an organisation or a team. And we feel like that just gives more opportunities to people at different levels and different stages, because we feel sometimes you can be sort of limited to your tournament results based on how you travelled and how many opportunities you had to travel. And I think sometimes it's not necessarily about just the results. And I think if everyone embraces that across the board, you should eventually see esports appeal more to the masses. FGC appeal more to the masses in an esports capacity, and I think we're heading there. I think that's one of the reasons why we got into Tekken. I think other games might be slightly ahead in esportsness, but Tekken's definitely kind of the next one. I think it's the biggest game. It's the biggest fighting game in the UK, and that's a great start. So yeah. I think it comes down to the one-on-one aspect. You're on your own ultimately. Obviously, we try and bring a team dynamic. That's why we have a few players. But I think ultimately you're on your own, and it's a desire to compete. And I think the people that play Tekken for a long period of time are the people that do have that hunger just to be as competitive as possible. And I think Tekken allows that more than other games. Some games are more casual friendly, so the enjoyment can be had in different ways. Whereas I think the enjoyment in Tekken comes from conquering adversity, be it someone you deem as a stronger player, but also maybe even before that, when you're actually learning the game, overcoming a hard combo and understanding the mechanics. Because for me, Tekken is probably one of the deepest fighting games, so it lends itself to that. Well, what we try and do is we have a scouting process. So, like events today, we kind of go over the people that attended, and we kind of score them based on what we've seen. And we're honest, if we haven't seen them, then we're not going to score them, because it's obviously going to be, it's not going to give a true result of that player. But we try and do that across all the events, and we did that before we actually had any players. So obviously we looked at past VODs from Twitch streams and YouTube, and we also listened to the community as well. Like we had influence from people who thought certain players were on the up, and we kind of cross-referenced that between what we already had done in terms of the scouting process, and then we make the approach. Then really, obviously, people from all different games will try and ask us, how to get in, and we tell them the same thing. We just keep playing, because ultimately, it's what they do is kind of like brings us to them really. Yeah, and that's it. They're all shining bright. They're all shining very bright. I think everyone's going to look at the standout tournaments. So, for example, False God won the Warriors Reborn, which was a national major. And then Guki Akuma on the Tekken World Tour, last chance qualifier, he got 9th, which out of 100 plus players who were all trying to get into the finals. And he took a lot of good names to get there as well. It was very impressive. So those two are kind of like in the limelight, I suppose, based on those things. But I think there's a lot of consistent players as well who are doing well across the board. Like today, hopefully we'll have I think with the round robin format, it's hard to have a definitive winner in that when there's so many good players. So you may only lose 2 games all day, but the person who wins it may have only lost 1 or none. So they're very fine margins, I think. But when it comes down to it, I think the more events that the UK that we have in the UK should drive growth in everybody. So yeah, I think we're all on the upward trajectory. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so we try and look at kind of like who's ready and stuff, and we have the conversations with our players. I think what we wanted to do the back end of last year is kind of try and get people to as many national events as possible. Try and get them together, working as a team in terms of sharing information and no secrets, but information, and kind of like use that as a boilerplate for this year. And obviously we've got an event early already for here in London. I think Tekken World Tour should be announced soon, schedule I guess. So yeah, so we'll look at that and then yeah, we definitely want to push players into Europe for this season. So we have 2 that are in the Invitational, and we have 3 that were in the last chance qualifier. One of them actually didn't make it in time, so we actually only had 2 in the last chance qualifier. Blue Majesty, Tim missed his train. I think he slept in, but but yeah, no. Chikimaru and Ace Marco, I think they just came against strong people on the day. Chikimaru and Ronasa are actually on the Belong team together, so they play each other a lot. Chikimaru feels confident against Ronasa because of that, but on the day he lost, and that's just the way it is sometimes. And with it being single elimination as well, you'd have no second chances. So I certainly hope so. But like I said, with the format, you've got we really have to. I think at the time of this interview, 2 of our players they both lost 1 game in their first game, unfortunately. But if they can see out the rest of the day, then yeah, why not? I think both of them are talented enough to do that. So
awesome. Well, good luck today.
Thank you.